Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Matt. This is Prime Analog Records. Today I'm going to talk to you about a thread that was put forth by CGC Christian over at CGC Vinyl. I think he's going by that now still. I'm not sure. He's changed it up a couple of times. Anyway, he's a great guy. He's got some good imagination. He's got some good ideas. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do he wanted to show 5 bass players and some records and stuff like that. That's very difficult for me. I'm going to go over that amount today, and I'm trying to stay pretty much off of what most people would imagine that I'm going to say or I'm going to talk about. But here we go. All right, so here we go. There's going to be some stuff in here that you guys have never heard of and things like this. First one, I'm hoping you guys have heard of this. This guy, he's a Mexican-American. He's brilliant. He mastered the bass guitar. He plays a 6-string bass, very much like a guy named Victor Wooten, but he's way older, and he's been doing this much longer. To put a discography out there for him would be ludicrous, because if you've heard any kind of jazz in the last 40 years, he's probably on this or had an influence on the person who is actually doing this. The guy's name is Abram Laboriel, or Abraham Laboriel. He shortened it years ago to Abram, but he's on this album here. He's been on many Dave Grusin albums, as well as hundreds and hundreds of others. I saw something that he did some stuff, I think, on Frozen and stuff like that, some of these Disney things. I mean, he's an incredible studio musician. He's been around forever. And if you guys should try to check him out, there's lots of stuff on him on YouTube and stuff like that, so it's really worth checking out. All right, my next one would be, I can't forget, Stanley Clarke. And Stanley Clarke on this album here is some kind of brilliant. It's Return to Forever. This is Chick Corea's band, and Al Di Meolo's on here as well. But I never really got into Stanley Clarke, because Stanley Clarke always tended to me, and this is just to me, had a chip on his shoulder, because he was always trying to be super fast. It's like he always wanted to be a lead guitarist or something. So, he has the ability and the structure in his work ethic to be an amazing bass player, and he is, make no mistake. But it's just, he did all these runs and stuff like that I just never got into. I think Chick was really good about keeping him and Lenny White, keeping them in check as far as, getting the rhythm section the way that they wanted it to be. So that's Stanley Clarke. Okay, my next one is Danny Bonaduce. No, I'm kidding. No Danny Bonaduce and no Partridge Family. But we're going to talk about is Chuck Rainey. And Chuck Rainey was the brilliance behind almost all of the rhythm in the bass parts for Steely Dan. Of course, he created these with Purdy, who's the drummer, and him would create these incredibly intricate parts to these crazy arrangements that Becker and Fagen would put together, and there's almost no one who could do what they did to those arrangements and with those arrangements. It's really a beautiful thing, and they were very in the pocket, but also they could also stretch and put a couple of more licks in there, double time and triple times, that you didn't know how that sounded. It kind of chopped the music up, and it kept you really interested because it makes you pay attention. So that's Chuck Rainey, and he's a great studio musician bassist. Another amazing studio musician bassist played on this album here. You knew you weren't going to get out of here without hearing something about Gino Vanelli, but this album, as well as multiple other albums by Gino and many other people he's played with, a guy named Jimmy Haslip. And Jimmy is an amazing bass player, another one who's just, without him, there's a missing element to these pieces that he played on. He's just really super creative, but also keeps the rhythm proper. And you know, these guys like Gino would just, you know, these arrangers and directors, they just let these guys, they give them the music, and then they just kind of let them go, because they can really pretty much make or break the rhythm sections here. Okay, here's another one. This is from a group, and this guy is outrageous. When I first heard Mark King play the bass, it was it's another worldly kind of feeling, because what he did is he took this and made, once again, these really super creative bass players, they make this their own, and they make the instrument their own. They don't follow the traditional teachings, and Mark King is no different from Level 42. And what an amazing album this is. If you want an introduction to Level 42, this is the one to get. All right, it is called Running in the Family. All right, so here's another one that you probably have never heard of, but you probably saw if you saw Jeff Beck at Ronnie Scott's. And that's a live album that I recently got, not in probably the last 3 or 4 months. It's absolutely brilliant. They actually, it's on YouTube. You can see it on YouTube, the whole session. I think I caught it on PBS or something like that, and I remember scrolling across this, and I was freaked out because I was looking at this little girl playing the bass, and I'm like going, man, she is amazing. And I'm thinking to myself, who is she? Number one, I'm thinking to myself, she's playing with Jeff Beck, so she's got to be amazing. And I'm thinking maybe it's Jeff Beck's daughter or something like that. And actually, no, it's a girl named Tal Wilkenfeld. And she's got hair like that. That's natural hair for her. But this is her solo album. It's one of her solo albums. One of the albums that I first heard her on. Outside of that, she had a solo album. I can't remember right now what the name of it is. It's really a strong piece, but this one she actually sings on. She composed all the songs, and she arranged them, and she did a great job. I mean, I'll tell you, she's got a sexy, sultry voice. Beautiful, you know, these custom labels like this are beautiful, but it's like Tal Wilkenfeld, some kind of special. All right, and there's more. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube about her also. That, you know, there's documentaries about her and where she came from. She's Australian, and I don't think she's from New Zealand. I think she's from Australia. But anyway, it shows all these different great producers and arrangers and directors and artists talking about her and her brilliance. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So another one, this kind of doesn't need to be, you know, talked about outside of, you know, I've got this big giant box set over here with this guy here, and that's Sting. Sting is in a world unto himself as far as being a bass player and being amazing. So it's just, we don't have to talk about him a whole lot outside that he's just brilliant in what he's done to and put forward bass players. You know, a lot of people try to compare, you know, his bass playing, and they talk about, you know, that Paul McCartney's a great bass player. He's really not. Paul McCartney was very predictable if you listen to his work. And, you know, I'm not shitting on him, because it's like, I mean, he's had an amazing career, obviously. But what I'm saying is that his work and his style was very predictable. It was the old style. These people I'm telling you about now, they either evolved like Sting into a very different stylistic way and a pattern that's uncopyable. I mean, Sting is really an uncopyable person. He's similar to Flea in that, or Flea is similar to Sting in that, but he's trying to do it. Flea's trying. You can hear his ambition in the way he plays. And Sting is just there to create beautiful, beautiful music and melodies and harmonies. He melds his instrument. He doesn't try to be too far out front. And that's what, with all of these bass players that I've talked about here, they're all like this. They all can be as front as you want, but they also have restraint, and they can pull back and just kind of meld back into the band. And that brings us to the greatest of those, who could be out front, and you know who's coming, is Jaco Pastorius. Jaco could be as front as you wanted him to ever be, and he could take over any piece. He was an amazing composer and arranger and director. He co-produced almost everything he ever did with Weather Report, including this album here. He co-produced with Zawinul, and just the sheer brilliance of what Pastorius was it's unreplicable. That's not even a word, I think. It's unreplicatable. So I'm making up words, but there's never been anybody who's done this and played this instrument this way with such gentleness and with such an amazing tone. But he could also get really super aggressive, and it's almost like his mood could show by the arrangement. And he had a feeling. He knew that there was something there that he wanted to really talk about, and that's why I've talked about in my big documentary that I did on him. I did a long one. It was almost 2 hours, and I talked about him being a lyrical bassist, because he actually sounds like he's speaking through his bass. It's very unusual. I've never heard anybody be close to that. Now, most people, when they're thinking about bass players and really good bass players, they don't think of this guy. But you have to realize this guy was with this group from the very beginning. He's one of the co-founders of this group, and he became the lead singer and the voice for many of their biggest hits. Especially, he came to the front doing much more after Randy, what's his name? Calf passed away, and it's Peter Cetera. And Peter Cetera, this is one of his solo works, but he was the lead singer. He became the lead singer for Chicago, and did a countless amount of stuff. But at the same time, it's not very easy to do what people like Randy Meisner and people like that are actually singing and playing the bass. It's not a very easy thing, because usually you're walking, your vocal range is going away from the direction of the song itself. So you've got your bass playing, and it's usually walking this way, and your vocal range is kind of moving this way. So it's very, very difficult, and it takes a real brilliant mind to actually be able to do that. One in which I've never really had that ability to do. So you know, being a bass player, I think I've got a little bit of say-so into what's going on there. I think it's kind of interesting, but at the same time, I think it's important for people to know that these things are different. Okay, the only other person. Remember me talking about Jaco Pastorius. There's one other person who could do this, who had this touch. and he could be right out front, but he could also slide right back, and he did it in such a brilliant way, very much the way that Jaco does. And but he does it on an upright bass. That's Ron Carter. Ron Carter is one of the rare talents. Like, damn it. All right, my last one is a really brilliant guy. He's got to be on the top 5 of every single person who's ever heard an upright bass played. This guy, and you know, you think I'm talking about Charles Mingus, and Mingus had a way about his style was different. It's a little more bebop jazzy than what I really prefer. But this guy is the embodiment of what Jaco was doing, and what I've said about the sensibility and the ability to play up front and then also slide right back and be in and around this beautiful instrument and the sounds and the tone and all this stuff. And that would be Ron Carter. Ron Carter has been on and played with the greatest players of all time, from Miles all the way to everybody else. Just somebody special. If somebody's looking for, I remember listening to him on an album called Discovered Again. It's Dave Grusin. The whole thing is all acoustic, and it's so beautiful. It's very special. So anyway, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 10. And like I said, I was going to leave Danny Bonaducci out because Danny had nothing to do with playing the bass. And you've watched that show at all for a second, you realize for sure he's barely holding it up. So anyway, I just thought it'd be funny, a comic element here. So anyway, there's my video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a like and subscribe and all the good stuff. I appreciate everything you guys do. It helps me. It helps my channel grow, and it helps me come up with more content and more stuff I can put out there, okay? So we'll talk to you guys soon. All my best.